There we go. Now we're recording, and I'll put all this up on the DSPA YouTube page and send out a link to everybody. Then I'll also send out a link to the email addresses for those of you who want to email and can't. So that'll be included in the next email out, and we'll go from there. Looks like Dave is going to join us, and that is 7.
Hey guys.
Hey, Dave, we got David G and David G. No, wait a minute. You joined us twice, or did you send out an invite?
No, I probably just accidentally got in twice somehow.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Your vote counts twice then. Oh, we're not voting, by the way, on anything.
Well, dang it, why not?
That'll happen Tuesday. I guess I don't need race day quad emails. Let me turn my email off. There we go. Cool.
You might need a new FPV there, Vic.
I got a few.
Yeah, that's why I keep getting the race day quad emails too, probably. So
yeah, and they wanted us to join their fight too. And
did they?
Yeah, we couldn't as DSPA. That's slightly outside of what we try and do. We can't really be part of any lawsuits right now.
Yeah.
All right, we'll tell you what, gents, I value your time. So let's get started. One thing I would really like to try, if y'all know any, some female pilots or female drone owners, if you can get some of them to the thing on Tuesday night, that'd be phenomenal. But not necessary. I just like to see a little more estrogen mixed in with all this testosterone we have in the industry right now, and that would be really good to do that. So first of all, thank you all very, very much for being willing, at least if not to go in person, to write an email to the Hamilton, Ohio City Council and mayor and town attorney and city manager and all kinds of people like that. This came to our notice, I want to say about a week and a half ago, maybe. And I wish I could remember who sent it to me, but I can't. My brain's not working that well today. So it was one of you three. Thank you very much. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over today what y'all can do. Have any of y'all testified in front of a city council before? Okay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's what we're doing here for. I remember my first time, I sounded like an idiot. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen to y'all. But that's okay if it does, actually.
Wouldn't be much of a stretch.
Yeah, I'm good at being an idiot.
That's okay because you're real, right? And we want real people there.
Exactly.
We don't want professional people there. I'd love to go, but that's, I'm in Denver. It's a little bit hard to get there. And plus I have shoots next week. So that would be this week. It's Sunday, isn't it? Wow. So let's just get right into it here. I sent this out. Oh, you can't see it. Anyway, I sent my notes out. Y'all can print it out, take notes what we are now, or what we're talking about now on something else, whatever you want to do, refer back to it. And if you're going to watch this in the video, you can also then check the notes out as well. Another thing I would do, any of y'all commercial that work with realtors in the area in Hamilton? Nope. Okay, no worries.
Not really.
If somebody could get some realtors at that meeting, that would be huge, because they're the ones that are going to be most affected for the most part.
Yeah.
Because of some issues which we'll go into. So how do we go to a meeting? How do we act at a meeting? That's probably the biggest part. You want to be professional, and you want to empathize and sympathize with the people who are complaining. And help them, feel sorry for them, because they're complaining for a reason. Whether that's a real reason or not, we can't discount it, because they took the time to go to the council meeting and complain about this. And the council took action from that without really thinking too far ahead. Be cooperative, not combative. That is a huge thing. What we do here at DSPA is, we cooperate with the FAA, we cooperate with state agencies, we cooperate with the White House when we talk to them. So we figured out, and I'm sure y'all figured out too, a long time ago, you get more flies with honey than vinegar, which I think is stupid because you still end up with flies, but that's beside the point. Dress appropriately. Collared shirt. If you have a company and you've got a logoed shirt, wear it, because it adds a little bit more credibility. If you don't, cool. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just, dress appropriately. Cutoffs and a wife beater probably isn't the way to do it. And you know what? If I don't know how.
You must not know Hamilton very well. Vic.
Well, okay, rise above that. How does that say? Hey, my family's all from the south, so trust me, I understand cutoffs and white beaters. I don't own either, but I don't know where this is going to be, but in a couple of the city council meetings I've been at, I've had the pleasure, honor, fill in the blank, of talking to the media afterwards. And if you can have yourself prepared for that, that would be great. Just set yourself up as a SME, as they call it, subject matter expert, in your whether it's hobby, whether it's FPV, whether it's commercial, any of that stuff. And when you get up there, you're going to want to introduce yourself. You're probably going to have 3 minutes. Most of them do have 3-minute time limit when you're testifying. One possibility that y'all can do, and email back and forth between y'all selves, or meet with coffee beforehand or whatever. Don't meet with beer beforehand. That's a bad idea. See if there's like 1 or 2 or 3 of you that want to talk, and then see if you can bank minutes, which basically means if there's 3 people, if you want to talk for 3 people, then you get 9 minutes. And then usually the city council will say, hey, you say, I'm here, I'm talking with 2 other people. I'm going to use their minutes, and you might have to when you sign in. And those other 2 people will then stand up and say, yes, those are my minutes. So that's a possibility. Not all city councils do that, but as you're talking, you're going to find out that 3 minutes is up very, very quickly. Don't be embarrassed to sit in front of a mirror and practice what you're going to say, because it helps. Believe it or not, it really does help. Thank the council for the willingness to work with the community. That's huge. Most of these regulations, in reading through this, are probably birthed out of ignorance. And not ignorance in the pejorative sense, but ignorance in that they just didn't know what they were doing sense. So if you thank them for being willing to work with you, that goes a long, long way. But tell them thank you, but it hasn't gone far enough. And then prepare to explain why. One of the issues we'll go into a little bit deeper is there really is no need for this ordinance. This came about because somebody called the cops. The cops said there's nothing we can do, which is totally untrue, because what this person supposedly was doing was looking through windows and that kind of thing. And there's already ordinances on the books in Hamilton for peeping Tom stuff. So you still had the ability, the cops still had the ability to do something about it, assuming they could find someone.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Vic, so just on what exactly do they want to do?
They want to control drones much more than they're allowed. Well, not really much more than they're allowed, but beyond the reasonable the reason for it. And we'll get into the specifics here in just a bit.
Okay.
But the biggest issue is what they want to do with city property. But so we will get into that. I promise. And I know you're working, so we'll try. Okay.
We're all day long, dude.
Okay.
I'm sitting in a cornfield doing circles, so don't worry about me.
I love it. Crop circles. We're gonna hear about it on the news tomorrow.
Fine, dude.
So they're writing the specific language, which is 511, I believe. Like I said, we'll get into each one of those sections that are problematic. But then they're adding it to things like sexual issues. Things like that, and sexual ordinances. That doesn't need to happen, because the minute you start adding tool specific language to an ordinance, then you also are adding ways to get around it. It's like, well, I wasn't using a drone, I was using my iPhone on a painter stick, so you can't do anything about it. So we need to get that across. And it is, as I mentioned earlier, it's okay to be nervous. Most of the people that talk at the meetings are not professional speakers. And it's okay to be nervous. It's even okay to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous if I stumble through what I'm trying to say, because they'll empathize with you in that instance. They know they're not going to be talking with a bunch of professional speakers. So that's not a problem at all. Let's see, it's okay to be nervous. And use your nerves to your advantage. Say, you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is something I'm really passionate about. So I felt the need to come talk about it, although I've never done this before in front of a city council. Emphasize that according to one of the articles, this has happened I think it's about a handful of times in the last 3 or 4 years, 5 times in the last 3 or 4 years, according to the city attorney.
I believe it was the journal, the Hamilton Journal.
I think the city, one of the people, they talked to, and you're right in the article. And that's out of the last 4 or 5 times it's happened. Let's just go half a dozen times. Out of how many thousands of drone flights have there been in Hamilton in the last few years? So it's sort of like, banning cars because someone's speeding or driving drunk. So it doesn't make sense to do that. You just enforce the speeding and the drunk driving laws. And that's what needs to happen here. There's already laws on the books, like we talked about. People who use drones in a malicious manner are already violating other laws. Peeping Tom, harassment, stalking, all that stuff. If you've got a court order, it doesn't matter if you're using a telescope. Well, telescope maybe because you've got some distances there. But whether you're using a drone or a pair of binoculars or you're standing at a fence, that's still harassment. That's still stalking, that kind of stuff. So what you're doing it with should not be part of the law. Because like I said, when you start adding specifics, where do you stop? My iPhone and a GoPro and a 12-foot painter's pole, that's great spying tool. And it's a lot less intrusive and a lot more hidden than a drone. We've got basically a herd of angry bees with lights flashing everywhere. They suck at spying, obviously, if people see them doing it. Mention that you agree that drones can be used for bad things, because bad people can buy drones. I'm sorry. Same thing with stupid people. Stupid people can buy drones. There's no law that says they can. There's laws about what they can do with it, but they're stupid or they're bad. So that's what's going to happen. And as I mentioned, if you want to elect just 1 or 2 people to speak on your behalf, maybe somebody's a little bit better at public speaking, or somebody just says, I can't do it. You get there and your butterflies, you're afraid you're going to throw up on the podium. Just ask somebody else to speak for you. There's no shame in that at all. As long as you allow that minute stacking that I mentioned. Introduce yourself. Say who you are. Say if you're a resident or not. Hey, I'm from Cincinnati, but I come here and sometimes to work, and I really felt the need to come. I mean, whatever. If you're further away, you might actually have more say than a local, or a local may have more say than somebody who comes from further away. It depends on how the makeup of the city council. But introduce yourself, tell them who you are, tell them what you do. I'm a hobbyist, I'm a 107 pilot, I'm an FPV pilot. If you're a recreational FPV pilot, thank them right off the bat and say, hey, you know what? Thank you for taking parks off the list in the first revision. But that wasn't far enough, because they took parks off the list. So that was kind of nice of them. If you can't go, do write an email. And as I mentioned, I'll go ahead and send the emails of everybody you should send it to. That needs to be done tomorrow. If you wait till Tuesday, they may not make it in time for the Tuesday meeting. Offer to be a subject matter expert for them. If you're comfortable offering that to them, say, hey, you know what? If you need to, I'd be more than happy to work with who's ever working on the rules, their law committee or something. It's some kind of weird term I'd never heard before. To help kind of set this up and make it more palatable to the drone industry and to the drone community there in Hamilton. You want to print out and take a copy of the proposed ordinance with you, along with your notes. Print your notes out. If you're like me and you write them out, you get nervous, you can't read your writing. So print them all out in big enough font, half spaced, that kind of stuff, so you don't lose your place real easy. So go ahead and do that, but refer to the ordinance. And my ordinance, it's kind of hard to see. You probably can't see it, sort of. But it's marked up. I've got highlight stuff all over it. And if you've got that, and even if you're just not reading the highlighted parts, that makes you look very prepared. So yeah, you want to be prepared, but you want to look even more prepared. Appearance is crucial on something like that. Ask if the city attorney reached out to their FAA council. Every city and every state has an FAA regional council. The one for Ohio is in Illinois, in Des Plaines, Illinois. And I will actually, in our email from the DSPA, also reach out to them and give them a link to that, as well as what's called the UAS, the state and city guidance on UAS laws in the FAA website. It's older, outdated language, and they are working on a new one, but it's all we've got right now, and it is what they use. Now, if you'll notice in the preamble, or lack of a better word, background information, they talk about a few different laws that they're referencing. I went ahead and looked those up. They're in the notes that I sent you. Ohio Bill 714 has not been adopted yet, according to what I could find. And all it does is add UAS to the existing language for things like stalking and peeping Tom and that kind of stuff. There's no UAS specific laws that I could find, definitely not in 714. The Cleveland regs are referred to apply only to parks, only to drones under 2 kilograms. I don't know why they came up with that number and where they came up with that number, but the parks. So if you're flying, let's say you're flying a decked out Inspire 2, well, guess what? That's over 2 kilograms. So I'll just fly it through the parks all day long. And it's got section 333 language. So it's way outdated. So I'm not sure why they referenced it. And the fact that they did reference it, seems to me that they don't quite understand what they're doing. They just Googled drone laws, Ohio, and started copying stuff. Sorry.
That's pretty much what happened back up here.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It really does. I'm going through this like, I don't get this. Sandusky Parks says, hey, just fly by FAA rules and don't be reckless. And it also says, hey, you want to fly in our parks, get a free permit. So that's actually not a bad regulation. I think all parks should have that, to be quite honest. Hey, well, maybe except for the permit issue. But hey, be safe, don't be stupid, fly smart, you're good. I couldn't find anything in Cuyahoga Heights. I mean, I checked their website, I checked their laws, I checked drones, I checked UAS squat. So I don't know what the heck they're referencing there.
So sorry.
That's okay.
They're probably referencing the National Cuyahoga Forest is up there in that area.
Yeah, but that's National Forest, right? So that's
I know,
open
yeah,
range for us.
or National Park. So it should,
National Park. Yeah. Okay.
It's a national park.
So-
Sorry, yeah.
No, Cuyahoga Heights did an ordinance with basically you got to call them before you fly a drone in their within their city limits. Sorry about that.
Interesting. That's okay.
And then
We know what it means.
there's another one.
You better land, change your battery.
Oh, it's towers. We go to 10% here.
You're smart people.
So then another city, Bay Village or Avon. Yeah, it's Avon that put it no drone launching from public property. That's actually on the books.
Okay.
And
So
then-
similar to what that is.
The Cleveland Metro Parks, they still believe they own the airspace, and they've been a tough nut to crack. And in
Hey,
fact, there's only.
Go ahead.
Is that really bothering you?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. They actually said that. Well, I'm sorry, where I was going with it. There's actually only been 2 people that have legally flown inside the metro parks, and that's me through ODOT, and the Northeast Ohio Sewer District has a permit from them. And a good story, anecdotal, is I trained their rangers on their drone, and they couldn't fly. The rangers couldn't fly a drone in the metro parks for the first 3 or 4 months because they didn't have the proper permit.
Wow. Do me a favor. Send me that link to that. I'd kind of like to look into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's been really hard to get into. It's a hot mess. So
We'll
and
give
then
it a shot.
my hometown of North Olmsted, actually, we came up with an idea of a ticketing. Your first one is a warning of unsafe use, and then your second one is a ticket, and then the third one is confiscation.
Who defines unsafe use in that instance?
So, this has been something I've been kind of battling with, and it follows the FAA rules or regulations, but also at that point, it's up to the police officer. Because I was asked this question yesterday, and I actually called all my cop friends, and they're like, it's up to the discretion of the officer.
Yeah. Well, there's some stuff in this regs when you talk about that also does that same thing.
And that's, it kind of leads to my question is, does Hamilton have a drone program within the city? And if
it they do because they reference it.
If they do,
what kind of program? Like a training program or like?
They talk about it in parks. They talk about it in the parks. Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that here in just a bit.
Okay.
So let's talk. And then in Youngstown, it was horrible. I mean, the Youngstown, Ohio ordinance was like, are you kidding me? The second it's ever challenged, it'll lose. I mean, it's got preemption written all over it. So that's part of the problem is when they pass stuff like that, other cities say, hey, we can do the same thing.
Right.
But I can guarantee no one's been cited in Youngstown who knows what's going on because they would take it and run with it. So let's get into the specifics of the bill itself. It's a proposed ordinance. I'm just going to call it bill for the lake of severity, or for the sake of just not having to say that word all the time. With section 51101, they talk about needing to actually, that's in 51103, sorry. The definition in B excludes all drones that are under 0.55 pounds. So my little mini, my little mini 2 with the Japanese batteries, I mean, that's under 5 pounds. So it's kind of dumb that they've just exempted that. I don't know why they did it, but they did it. So it doesn't make a ton of sense why they would do
Sure,
that.
we really
No idea.
want to ask them to remove
That's
that.
kind of a question. Yeah, it's like,
Because if we're not successful at getting them to take away everything else, this at least gives us
exactly.
Something, right?
Yeah, and you can go fly your mini out. It says 249 grams on the side and say, no, look, you can't do anything. So yeah, take the Cinewups, all that kind of stuff. 51101E, it talks about surveillance. They define surveillance, which is a good thing. Some of these ordinances don't define surveillance, but what they do is they have some very strange wording that doesn't have a whole lot of definition. Definitely doesn't have any SCOTUS rulings behind it. Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS. Surveillance means gathering without permission in a manner that is offensive to a reasonable person. That's a very vague term, and there's a lot of vague terms in here, and maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's not, but that's something that does need to be addressed. If they really wanted to make this stand up in court, which they should, really, because it's going to make it easier to fight if somebody is cited, there is a term called reasonable expectation of privacy that has SCOTUS rulings that back it up. So reasonable expectations of privacy exists at the federal level. The definition and the interpretation exists at the federal level. So that's what they need. They need to get rid of reasonable person in E and add, under reasonable expectation of privacy. Will they? I don't know. It's something we need to bring out. 51102, purpose and intent. This is why they're doing it. This chapter is intended to promote public safety, which I think is kind of funny because it does none of that. Don't say that. Don't tell them that, though. The city of Hamilton is restricting UAVs, UAS to certain areas. It is not intended to restrict legitimate hobbyists, which is nice because that was some added language. Or non-intrusive commercial operations. Now, the term non-intrusive,
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
is really, really weird. Of all the things like this I've worked on, I've never heard that term before. So I actually had to look it up. Non-intrusive really just means that it's well, crap. Let me find it here.
It's really just terrible wording because
it's horrible wording.
It's
Yes.
So different between
Disruptive.
people, right?
Yeah,
No-
sorry. Disruptive is the word I was looking for. Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, because for somebody, something
Mhm.
intrusive, right, might be somebody's music, right? You're at the
Exactly.
park, and maybe somebody doesn't like country music, and so to me, that's intrusive, right?
Right.
I don't enjoy country music, right?
These are exactly what you need to sell them. That's the
Exactly.
exact example of what you do. And what does it mean? Say, okay, ask the city attorney. They'll be there, I promise. Ask the city attorney, what do you mean by non-intrusive? Because that's not a legal definition. And you should have a legal definition in here. Personally, everything, the wording that they really should have there is, let me find it. And actually, we'll add that under exemption. So hold that thought when I get to that. 511.3C. There's some interesting language in there too. But before we get to that, one thing we need to worry about is there's not a lot of preemptive language. There's not a lot of federally preemptive language in this proposed ordinance because there's not a whole lot of over, within, or above. once you start adding that kind of language to any kind of local or state ordinance, then that gets into the whole FAA federal preemption issue. So they've really kind of skated that line pretty well. I'll give them props for that. But let's go back here real quick, 51103C, which is under restrictions. So 51103 is restrictions. C is no person shall launch, operate, or cause to be launched or operate any unmanned vehicle or unmanned aircraft system over a property in a manner, see, over they can say here, that causes direct and immediate interference with the use or enjoyment of that property. Immediate interference, a direct and immediate interference is up to interpretation by the responding person. And if somebody's really being an a-hole about it, the person who called the cops, they can scream all kinds of things all day long. And the cop may just give up and say, you know what, fine, here's your citation, take it up with the court. And we want to avoid that for obvious reasons. One, it wastes y'all's time and it wastes the court's time. So it's the vagueness of the language in a lot of this that's an issue. It's very open to interpretation to responding LEO. So law enforcement officer.
So on that one, Ohio Revised Code, you're going to kill me for this one for not
That's
having
okay.
the actual number, but it's unsafe and reckless use of an aircraft.
Sure.
That's kind of a catch-all that we teach up at Tri-C.
That's what the FAA uses. Yeah, that's the default from the FAA. So
yeah,
it
so
makes
it's kind of
sense.
nice. And that's where I was questioned about, well, who says it's reckless? Well, the cop does.
Yeah.
And if you want to argue with a cop, have fun. See where that goes.
Yeah, that's why courts are there. That's why courts,
Yeah.
which we want to avoid. But yeah, if you crash into somebody, that's reckless. If you're just flying over a park, that's not reckless. But who knows? You're right. You have to be prepared to argue that.
Well, and this goes back to my previous example about music, or if somebody's playing frisbee in a park or something like that. I may not, someone may not enjoy that. Someone may interpret that as being messing up my picnic that I'm trying to have in the park. And whether I have a drone, 400 feet up in the air and isn't even over the top of anybody, someone might try and say that that's interfering on their use or enjoyment of that property because I'm trying to grill out in the backyard. And even though the drone's not even necessarily near me, just, you might have some Karen that's going to, try and use that term to get somebody in trouble.
Right. Now, I would avoid using terms like Karen.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there might be somebody named Karen on the committee.
Karen in that.
I agree.
So, listening to, some of the things that you've spotted off already, is there an exclusion or an exemption for law enforcement? Because right now,
we'll get at that. We'll get to that.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yep. No, keep those questions coming, Chad. Don't worry about that. If I'm getting to it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
for basically all public employees, right? I mean, it talks about local, federal, state, so on and so forth. So it reserves government rights, but doesn't reserve the people's rights.
Which is very typical. Very typical of what we dealt with. So back to the restrictions. In part D, it talks about to invade the privacy of another's home, office, enclosed space, or private space of another. That also you need to add the reasonable expectation of privacy wording there, because one person's private space is another person's open air space. There has to be that reasonable expectation of privacy. Supreme Court says basically anything from the air, visible by the air, has no reasonable expectation of privacy. There's 2 or 3 different cases on that. And I'll actually add those, so you guys don't have to look those up.
I was going to ask you, any of these items that we've talked about, like I think Chad had mentioned the code, a couple of codes before. If we have any of those, if we can share those with the group, that would be great.
Sure, I'll look those up. Let me take some notes. That was an Ohio Revised Code.
Yeah,
I'll check it out. Don't worry about it.
It's 4 number. I probably look up real quick, but it's 4 numbers
reckless.
and 0.15.
0.15. Cool. I'll look it up.
Something 0.15.
I got 1 in 999 or 99,000.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
Chances, right? Okay. All right. D. Now E. E also has some incredibly vague language in it. No person shall launch, operate, blah, 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 blah. In a manner that harasses, disturbs, annoys, or threatens persons or wildlife, creating a public nuisance. Annoy nuisance,
Noise, so
threatens,
generic.
again, back to that again. It's just way, way, way too vague. It's going to create a lot more problems than it's ever going to cure. Because one person's annoyance is another person's enjoyment. I just made that up. I don't think annoyment's a word though. F, that's the big boy. That's the one that has got to be changed, or it's going to just absolutely kill the UAS community and UAS industry in Hamilton. So I'll read it verbatim. I lost it.
These people haven't met Chris.
No
Sorry.
person shall launch or land an unmanned aerial vehicle or unmanned systems at any municipal building. This is where they took public park out, so thank you for that. Municipal building or any other property owned by the city of Hamilton. Now, this does not apply to persons who have been authorized by the executive director of public safety, chief of police, or their designee. So that this doesn't include that. But the biggest issue is that with this, and an issue I ran into here in Denver, the city of Thornton had this almost identical language. Any other property owned by the city of Hamilton. So that's streets, that's sidewalks, there's alleyways, anything, easements, anything. And that's where the vast majority of commercial operations launch from, because it's the safest. We can go across the street and park and launch from a sidewalk if we're doing a building or a home or whatever. And maintain better line of sight. We've got better situational awareness. If we have to go ask, let's like we have to go, we can't launch from the sidewalk, and I don't really want to fly it from the front yard of a house I'm trying to video because I really don't want to be in the video. So you're going to have to go across the street next door or whatever and knock on the door and say, hey, can I launch from your property? And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a big fat no. So it's really going to create a bunch of hassles for drone operators, especially the commercial crowd. And it's going to create some safety issues. The sidewalks are flat, they're concrete, they're easy to block off. And unless you're downtown, nobody's on it except probably Timmy and his bicycle, and he's going to sit there and watch you fly. So it's really not that big of an issue. Of course, dogs either hate drones or love drones. But the safest place to ever fly a commercial operation in any kind of residential and most commercial areas is from the sidewalk. So for them to close that off creates a huge, huge issue for commercial drone operators.
Plus the fact that they were nice enough to give us to strike out public parks, but public parks are going to be owned by the city of Hamilton as well. So
yeah,
they've taken those away.
Yeah, they need to. They need to.
If they want to allow people to fly
Yep.
from the public parks, then they need to put a specific exemption in there that
Perfect.
it's allowed.
I did not catch that. Perfect. Yep. Thank you. So you already earned your golden star for today. So yeah, they need to add parks to the language. So they need to fix that language. Bring that up with them. This section has to be abolished. If some of the rules are going to make it, this section cannot because exactly what we just said. It creates a hell of a lot more images or a hell of a lot more problems than it could ever solve. And it really could quite possibly cause the drone market in Hamilton to dry up, because where are people going to launch from? It's just going to create way too many hassles, and they don't understand that. We got the city of Thornton here to say, oh yeah, well, that's stupid. The chief of police wanted all these ordinances, and then we jumped in and said, hey, wait a minute. So we worked with them, and it turned out awesome for everybody. But it's the ignorance of what we do for a living by those trying to make the rules that create the problems. So that's what we need to get across, except be very careful of the term ignorant. I've used it before in the right way. Let's talk about I of that same thing, section I. They're talking about how you have to fly within a COA or a COW, so certificate of authorization, certificate of waiver, if you have one. Okay, well, we don't, and they specifically say, line of sight, over people, operations at night. Okay, line of sight, yeah, you still need a waiver for that. At night, we don't need it anymore. So what are they going to do? And what are the rules between commercial and recreational? Those rules are different. So they're going to have to know all these little nuances of all these little rules if they're going to try and do something like that. Over people. Okay, my little Mini, I can fly over people. My Inspire, I can't. So what's the cop going to know? It doesn't work. If they want to enforce something like this, they're going to have to train their law enforcement down to the letter of the law and then retrain them in 4 months and again in 16 months. So it's dumb for them to have this here because they don't need it, first of all. And it's going to create some huge headaches for training.
Once a month, we offer a 5-day course at Tri-C in Cleveland, Ohio.
Nice.
For law enforcement.
So make sure you send that in. Chad, are you going to make it or are you going to email?
No, I'm going to make it.
Okay, cool. Offer these services. You're like the perfect little SME. So be there. Be there and offer that.
Do we want to go down the Fight Club stuff about drone detection?
Not yet. No. We don't want to go there. You can take that up with the cops, but no, we don't want to do that. We will. You can bring up remote ID if you want.
Okay.
By using that as a mitigation, say, hey, you know what? In 16 months, this isn't going to be an issue because you're supposed to know everybody in the air.
Right.
So
okay.
You can bring that up if you want. It's just, and you can really, when it comes to the section I about having to know about cows and coas and all that stuff, it's just not fair to the cops. I mean, let's be honest here. They've got so many little laws that they have to enforce. Add something else to their plate where they have to know every little nuance about it. Just is not fair to them.
No.
And if you can get like the chief of police sitting there going, yeah, you're right, nodding in the background, that's really gonna do a lot of good when it comes to what the city council will hear. Now let's talk a little bit about exemptions, which is something Chad brought up. Yeah.
Before you move on, I don't think we talked about G at all. So it talks about you can't use a UAS to basically do any surveillance, but they're specifically talking about a UAS to do surveillance. So it's okay to do it with my phone or with a
No, that's
a handheld camera or something like that.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Why,
I
why
brought
is
that
it
up.
specifically not allowed?
Exactly. And that gets back to saying, your rules need to be tool neutral, tool agnostic. Exactly. Because every time you add a tool, then you open the door for a bunch of others that aren't there. So if you can get that point across, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't specifically address G, so that's great that you brought that up. I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I didn't specifically mention it. So yeah, you can do that. Add that to your notes. Talk about G. Actually, the reason I didn't do this, there's something wrong with every single one of these. Well, I talked about G at the beginning, so I didn't want them to sit there. It's like, you guys don't know what the heck you're doing, which they don't, but we don't want to tell them that.
Well, we'll nicely tell them they don't.
Yes, you can nicely tell them. Say, boy, aviation law is so hard, and even though we do this almost every day of our lives, we still get confused by it. So it's understandable that y'all aren't getting this right because it's very difficult. And even I've spoken with so many cities attorneys. It's like, well, yeah, but aviation law is not quite the same thing as zoning law. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say to a T or to a person, because there's one that sticks in my head. They agree with me and say, yeah, we get it. You can look up case law, and if they click the wrong thing on the Google lady, they come up with this nonsense about, hey, you know what? 500 feet belongs to the homeowner, because there's an article out there about that by this guy who's clueless. He's a lawyer. So it can be a bad thing. So that answer your question, David?
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, good. And no, I love these questions. Don't think you're interrupting anything. Let's talk about exemptions now real quick. There are some good exemptions in there, but they don't go far enough. Any government agency, City of Hamilton, or state, federal government agency for lawful purposes and in a lawful manner. Interesting adding that. And it shall not prohibit or restrict the use by Hamilton Parks Conservancy, Hamilton City School District Board of Education, which I thought was kind of weird. So just the board's allowed to fly apparently, and Hamilton Community Cablevision. So TV Hamilton, they're allowed to use their drone to get really cool footage of Hamilton, but no one else can. There should be 2 more exemptions added. And if you can get this pushed through, if nothing else gets pushed through, if you can get these 2 added, you're done. You're golden. All you got to do is carry your trust certificate or your 107.
Right.
The first one should say wording to the effect of UAS operations lawfully conducted under 14 CFR Part 107 will be exempt from any and all sections of this ordinance. So that's all commercial. That's all commercial operation. And then you can do the same thing using USC 44809, because that's the recreational side. So the only issue with that right now is we're still waiting for that CBO part 44809. So there's those 8 things you have to do, and the CBO is not quite ready yet. It's almost there. It's almost there. If you want to go deep dive into that with them, that's fine. But honestly, I wouldn't even bring it up because they don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
If you want to talk to them about it in a private session or something like that, then yes. Hey, these are the 8 things we need to follow. Actually, it's number 7. I can't remember now. Isn't quite there, but it's in process right now. Should be out in the next couple months. But the trust certificate is the big thing there. If you want to talk to them about recreational, it's like, we have this little trust certificate. So if you can get trust in 107 added to the exemption, I don't care if nothing else changes in this entire, if this entire proposed ordinance, if you get those 2 things added to the exemption, battle won, done, go fly legally. Now you're going to have to make sure you carry that with you, but still. And then some of the miscellaneous stuff, they're trying to add some property issues, property offenses. And so if you want to bring this up, it's getting a little bit into the weeds, but by all means, feel free to do it. If the city's going to attach property to drone flights, the cities really open themselves up to some liability issues. If they're going to tell somebody, well, yeah, you can't fly over my property, or however that works out in that language, they have to really be careful with that. It's kind of in the weeds and probably not something you need to worry about. But if you're a nerd like me, go for it. There hasn't really been even a state or federally defined how much do landowners own or control. Control is a better word, of the airspace above their property.
The state of Ohio realty law does have a usable airspace.
Is it just the term usable, or is there's an actual elevation?
No, I think it refers to the height of the building.
Okay, that's also called curtilage.
Yeah.
And so if they want to argue that, that's fine. That's something that needs to be done at the federal level at some point. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. All of this, in some point down the road, little rabbit trail here, there will be a federal regulation on how much a landowner is allowed to control. There's nothing there right now. So that's a fight we're going to fight when we get there. The chicken farmer?
The chicken guy.
Mr.
Yeah, the
Cosby.
chicken farmer guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Cosby, thank you.
Yeah, that is the most most often misquoted and misinterpreted ruling I've ever come across. Well, it's
awesome.
78 feet. It's like, no, 78 feet. Mr. Cosby's chickens committed suicide because the planes were flying over at 78 feet. That's all the law says. Nothing to do with unless your chickens are committing suicide and you have Army Air Corps flying over your house at 78 feet, that law does not apply. One thing, if you can also go ahead and get, especially if the police chief is there, talk to him afterwards. It's great. Ask him if he knows who his LEAP agent is. Chad, I know you know who that is. And introduce him to that. So you know what? Reach out to LEAP, okay? Because they're going to help you figure out how to prosecute even under your current laws. Or not help you prosecute, but they'll give you, they don't do that, but they'll give you the tools you need to say, hey, you know what? Peeping Tom, it's against the law, whether you're using a mirror on a stick or a drone. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I have a bunch of the handouts.
Oh, good.
From the FAST team.
Mm-hmm.
For the
little
LEAP
cards.
and yeah.
Awesome. I carry them in my car.
Yeah.
I take them everything I go to. I carry a bunch of those with me. They're
Oh,
great.
that's funny.
They're great. If you've got some, could you mind bringing it and let everybody else? Everybody else like 4 or 5. Because you guys should do that. What they are is they're a little bit bigger than business card size, and they're 2-sided cards the FAA gives out that talks about what a law enforcement is supposed to do during a drone call out. So they're phenomenal, because especially if a cop shows up, I'll say, oh, you know what? I understand the problem. Here is an FAA card that shows you what you're supposed to do. Let's talk about it. Boom. Problem dissolved right there, because now you're on the cop's side. So these things are indispensable. Last time I ordered like 250. I think I got like 50 left. And as a FAST team member, we can order those. That's kind of nice. But I also have some laminated ones in my car that I do not give out.
Nice.
But so bring some of those for everybody else. That'd be great, Chad.
There's one more part of this on the law enforcement side and on the state side that I guess I'm a little perturbed that they don't know about. So in 2018, 2019, the state had a UAS committee that was made of law enforcement. ODOT showed up, kind of. but my boss, well, one of my bosses was Chief Harris, who actually helped write the 14, points of, getting a UAS program started, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
Well, when we got, DeWine was our AG at that point, and now he's the governor.
Oh.
That program kind of fizzled away.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, we've gotten enough, I think, interest that we're going to start that again, but it'll be
cool.
first responders, law enforcement, and I'm fighting for them to get a commercial aspect at the table.
Oh yeah, definitely. You definitely got to have that at the table.
Yeah, so
that would be perfect.
Chris is actually talking to the the governor's helper.
Oh, good.
This week, actually Tuesday. I'm thinking about it.
Which Chris?
Chris, my business partner.
Okay.
The talker.
That's not throwing it. Within reason.
I've known him all my life. So.
Also, DSPA is working on a template for state preemption. So we're going to get that out. We've been trying to get that out for a while now, but as an all volunteer organization, things don't go as fast as we'd like.
I hear that.
So coordinate with LEAP and FISDO. It sounds like, Chad, you got that cornered. That's awesome. Talk to them a little bit about the positive uses of drones. It's not just, we're not spying on everybody. You could also say we don't spy on people because 99.99% of the people in America aren't interesting enough to spy on. And the other 0.01% are armed. So we don't spy on anybody. But educate them.
Plus
educate
your phone does enough for us.
Bingo. And help them understand that there are current laws on the books that police officers can use for this type of activity, and they don't need to add drones to it. If they add drones to all those other ones, 5, 33, 06, 37, 41, 41, it's not the end of the world. Okay, it just sets a very bad precedent for future stuff. And if you could get them to, if they're going to do something, have them do that, because it's not going to be that big a deal if it's added. It's just stupid that it is, because laws, like you said, should be agnostic when it comes to the tool being used to violate the law, period. Otherwise, well, it's not in the law, I can do it. It's like saying, well, you can't speed in a red Cadillac. Well, okay, I've got a green Cadillac. I can go 140 miles an hour down the highway. It's dumb that they do that. You can actually use that. I just thought of that. So, something along those lines. That is pretty much it. It sounds like Chad's got some training going that they can do part of. I also have, I developed actually for the FAA safety team, a law enforcement agency training program for what to do in a drone call out with my LEAP agent. We've got to tweak it a little bit more because trust has come out and we're still waiting for the CBO aspect of it. And once all that comes out, that'll actually go national. And I think that's pretty much it. Again, if you can find a realtor, even if you just know a realtor, it doesn't have to be a client. If you just know somebody who's a realtor and say, hey, do you use drones in your listings? You might want to come to this meeting because you won't be able to very soon. If this goes the way it is, you won't be able to safely and easily. They're going to say we're not stopping drones. Well, you kind of are, in the fact that you're closing off so much ground for us to fly from that you're making it virtually impossible for us to safely fly. And safely is going to be the key word. If you can really push the fact that this is safe, we are safe doing this. Yes, there are bad actors that have drones. There's bad actors that have phones. There's bad actors that have guns. If you want to bring that, that's usually a hot button topic. So try and stay away from guns. But there's bad actors that use tools for everything. Box cutters. We had somebody here attacked with a screwdriver. It's where do you stop? If you're going to do this, where do you stop? You can't stop. So why start? Just make the law say, don't do X with anything, because that law already exists. So it doesn't make sense to add all this stuff. And what they're doing is really going to hurt the industry. If you can get enough people to do that, and if it's going to really make them stop and say, oh, wait a minute, maybe this isn't such a good idea, or hey, we don't understand exactly the unintended consequences of this. And if you don't want everybody to get up and talk, the other thing you can do, if it's just like 2 or 3 people, even if you're just going to do 3 minutes each, one of you needs to say, and maybe it's the first person, say, hey, not everybody here is going to talk, but I'm going to ask everybody who supports my position to please stand up. This is where your numbers are going to be great. If you can get 6, 7, 8 people there. I don't know how many people are normally at a Hamilton City Council meeting. They've got a lot of items on the agenda, which I'm glad I don't want to go. I'm not going to go because I hate sitting through those things. It's inevitably the last thing we talk about is drones. But if you can get enough people to stand up and say, hey, you know what? These are the people you're going to affect, and this is why, then that would work just as well. So that's pretty much a little longer than I wanted to. Sorry, I tend to start rambling on about these kind of things. They're kind of passionate.
Now, the other thing to kind of emphasize on is Ohio is first in flight.
Oh, good idea. Well, North Carolina would argue that point, but yeah, I get it.
We've had that argument before with them.
Yep.
It started here.
The Wright brothers were born there.
Exactly. And not too far from Hamilton.
Oh, cool.
So,
Right.
I don't know, you know me. I mean, they're creating a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Bingo. They've got a solution in search of a problem.
And we see it all the time. And
Mhm.
the other guys here, I'm just going to let this out of the bag, right? We have a drone detection system that sits over the city of Cleveland. And by the city of Cleveland, I mean all of the Cleveland greater area, from the lake down to Akron, from the far east side to the far west side. And, when we see these people get all upset, and we love freaking out the FAA with the overall shot, but 99.99% of all these flights are someone in their backyard just flying a drone.
Exactly.
So it's always with drone detection, it's always been a problem of an internal problem of we have a solution for a problem that doesn't really exist right now. Granted, after the first problem, everyone's going to be calling me, but it's not there. Not something that can't be mitigated by the laws that are on hand.
Exactly. And it's in situations like this, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. Now, my rebuttal to that is, yes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but the nail that's sticking up the highest gets hammered down the hardest. So this person, and I'm guessing here, I don't know who complained, but I'm thinking this is one of those people who's retired, has nothing better to do, and goes to every city council meeting with an issue. They're out there. I've seen them. I've met them. I've wanted to punch them. I haven't.
Yeah. My friend Justin was actually talking to the lady who made the complaint initially. Apparently, this last one, he was talking to her on Facebook. She's just some random lady, like nobody special. I don't know that she's ever gone to a city council meeting, but she definitely is one of the Karen who just wants to complain about something. And that's almost definitely what all 4 or however many of the other ones are too. Because I know I've flown here in the city recreationally, wherever the hell I wanted for 6 years now. I've flown around cops. I've flown over cops. I've flown beside, chase them down the street and stuff. They don't ever say anything. They don't care about us. They're not worried about us. We're not doing anything wrong.
Exactly.
There's nobody around. We're not trying to hurt anybody.
And that's the vast majority of flights out there. And that's what you just said is exactly what you need to say. Except don't tell them you've flown over them, because just tell them you've flown beside them.
Well, around them.
Around
near them. In the vicinity, not necessarily above them.
Yeah. And you could even say, well, now if a police officer drives by, they're going to have to probably stop and make sure I'm doing everything right. So it's going to add a burden to their job that's already sucks rocks.
Right.
There's a reason there's less cops going through academies, more cops retiring. This is one of them, because there's stuff that they have to do that they don't need the headache.
No,
they don't need it.
And it's just going to be a unchecked ordinance or law that never gets enforced, because they're not going to have time. And in the city, it's funny you brought up the city of Cleveland, their weirdness. The city of Cleveland goes, We have bank robberies and murders. We don't really care that somebody has a drone.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Exactly. Yeah, unless you're using that drone to scout for cops, in which case you're aiding and abetting. So it's already illegal.
Exactly.
It's done. Yeah.
They've definitely got bigger problems in our city to worry about than the drone problem. I promise you that.
Oh, I bet.
All the drone running rampant everywhere. Oh my Lord. It's just, they've got
What city are you in?
to worry about. Hamilton.
He's in
So,
Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm local.
So
that's
go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
no, that goes into my question. Do you know, is it the Park Service that has drones, or do the police actually have drones?
I
don't think they really have a coordinated program, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've not heard of anything.
I know a bounty hunter that hunts guys with
That's pretty
drones.
awesome.
For real, actually.
Well, then he couldn't do it because that's surveillance. Get him there.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait a minute. Don't get him there. No, get him there.
No. So
I'm going to talk.
this is something we've tried to figure out with the state, because the Ohio State Patrolman Association actually shut down their drone training program that was out in London. And so Cleveland, Cuyahoga Community College, we're the only one in the state now training law enforcement how to basically start, run, and the laws that go along with drones in the state. So, it's a big disservice if you're gonna, throw this on these guys, and they don't know, they don't care.
Right.
And it's, when I brought up the metro parks, we watch every day people fly in the metro parks. It's ridiculous. We couldn't even fly in the metro parks for the NFL when the NFL wanted film from the metro parks for the draft. The metro parks is like, no. So, and the Rangers don't care. We see it every day. The Rangers are some dude's flying a drone, whatever.
Right.
So, we're like, just relax with the drone stuff.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
If
you can get that across to them, that it's unnecessary, that it's creating burden to the police officers, it's going to really, especially the language about city-owned property, make sure the parks are specifically excluded if you don't get that language struck. But the sidewalks in the parks, and sidewalks in the streets, you've got to be able to fly there so you can fly safely. You've got to hammer down that this is where we have to fly safely.
Yeah.
If you want us to be safe in the air, we have to be able to see our drones. We have to be able to have the most visual, we have to be able to have a really good grasp of the airspace around us. Situational awareness is critical. And if we have to do it from the bushes on the property 2 houses down and across the street, it's not going to work. We need to be where we can see and where we can be seen. So if there's an issue, people can come find us and diffuse the situation. That's just got to be removed from the language, or exempt everybody in trust in 107, which is damn near everybody owns a drone.
Yeah.
And then everything else is useless.
Right. I kind of agree with the focusing on the exemptions.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's all the other stuff moot anyway.
Yeah. Yep. So that's my suggestions. Chad has had some great suggestions as well. Do you guys have any other questions or anything like that I can answer right now?
Well, who all out of the 4 of us is actually going to the meeting? Besides, I actually have the opportunity. Am I the only one out of us that's
well, Chad will be there.
Chad will be there.
So I'm planning on coming down. Then I know there's a couple guys from Columbus. Stephen H. He runs the Ohio Drone Operators or something.
Stephen. He actually texted me, said he can't make it today, but he will be there tomorrow. Yeah. He says, I already have Hamilton, Ohio down and will not be missing that. So Stephen will be there.
When is it? It's
Tuesday.
Okay.
It's not,
okay, good.
I thought it was Wednesday.
I thought Wednesday.
Oh, sorry.
I thought it was Wednesday.
I got something else in my mind. Wednesday.
Okay, okay, good.
I'll send out a link.
Monday's gonna get weird, but
I thought I looked it up when we first started.
22nd. The 22nd.
And I'm like, I know my son doesn't have band.
Wednesday. Okay, good. 9/22/21, 6 o'clock. Yep. So yes, thank you. I don't know why I'm thinking I've lost. I spent all week in Vegas at the UAV Expo and my brain hasn't recovered yet.
Well, there you
So,
go, right there.
yeah.
You spent all week in Vegas. That
Oh,
explains-
I hate Vegas with a passion. I hate Vegas.
Well, so I don't know if you've met Scott Malarkar. He owns Firehouse Technology, but he also
Oh, I
runs
don't.
Lake County
I might have. I know
Bald
we've
head
talked on the phone.
Talker. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I train with him. He's one of my trainers.
Oh,
Or
okay,
one of my
cool.
instructors.
Cool.
So I wish I can get him to come down because he's a very good common sense type
Mhm.
of guy. But it's the law. He hates 107. Like he hates teaching it.
Oh, he's teaching it. I don't blame him there. I don't like teaching.
Yeah, it's brutal for him.
I do like his lights though. I recommend them all the
They are
time.
good,
Yep, I tested a
They've been
couple of them for him. Mhm.
independently tested.
Yep.
I find them everywhere in my car. Like every nook and cranny has one of like every version of it.
Yep,
And it's
yep.
interesting you bring that up because, and this is a good little tidbit for everybody. One of his lights had a audible alarm on it.
Mhm.
So after a minute and a half, an alarm goes off at like 90 decibels. That, guys, was a direct solution from ODOT losing one of their Inspire
cool.
2s in the woods.
Oops.
I was like, you know, Scott, we need to put a car alarm on one. He's like, I think I can do it.
Just make
So-
sure you turn it off when you're done using it. There's nothing worse than that thing going off in the back seat when you're driving down the road.
90 decibels. 90 decibels.
It's like, oh crap. Check your mirror. It's like, oh, that's right. Firehouse. Cool.
So, yeah, I plan on coming down. Steve's coming over. I think he was going to, there were some other guys that would come down. And had I known, I actually have a retired police chief who is a realtor.
Nice.
I could see if he could write a letter.
Yeah. Yeah. Reach out to some of your larger
Okay.
realtors in Hamilton and have say, hey, this is what's going to happen. Can one of you all come by? Then and even more can come by. That'd be great. You know, hey, you know what? You've got 6 realtors in the audience standing up when you say, hey, who here opposes this? That's great numbers.
Right.
Great numbers. Cops. If you can get some cops there in uniform that would oppose this. It's like, we don't need this crap. We don't need more on our shoulders. Let
No.
them fly safe. So that's what I had planned and then some. So any other questions, anything like that? If something pops up, y'all have my email address. Down below there is also my cell phone. If you call me, it'll go right to voicemail unless you're in my contacts. Nick, I think, is in my contacts, so I'll answer his phone call. I think Chad is too. But it don't if it'll go right to, and then leave a message, or you can text me. Text come right through, obviously. I put my phone to the whole unless y'all know you're not answering your phone kind of thing during the election cycle. And now that I bought a car, I'm not changing it back because thank you. I don't need a warranty. Have one. So if that's it, I can go ahead and sign off. I really, really, really greatly appreciate what you all are doing. This is huge. If we, the problem is if this passes and then another one will pass and then another one will pass and another one will pass. So if we can beat the little ones down first, we don't have to worry about the big ones later.
See, and I really think that's why they did things the way that they have been doing here. Is they were trying to sneak this in before without anybody noticing. So by the time we have to fight about it, we have to get a lawyer, and somebody's going to pay out money, and then it's going to be even harder for them to fight. So I think that's why this is all happening the way that it has.
It's
and I'm
typical.
very happy for all of you guys being a resident of Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
Direct.
If I was closer, I'd be there. In my
I'm very
DSPA
happy
shirt.
that all of you guys.
No, that's awesome. That's what we're here for. This is what DSPA does. Usually at the federal level, but we don't mind this too, because that's we've all dealt with it. Me, Kenji, Scott, we've all dealt with it either locally or in other municipalities. And that's what we want to do. We want to keep these knocked out, and our goal is to eventually not be needed anymore. Don't see that happening, but you never know. I think some point in life, drones are going to be like cell phones. When cell phones first came out, if you went into a locker room, you had to leave your cell phone with the attendant. Now you walk around a bunch of naked men with your cell phone on talking, and you could have your video running. I mean, it's just second nature. And maybe one day drones will be like that. Well, probably won't be walking around with a bunch of naked men with a drone, but unless you got prop guards on. But I don't know why I said that. Sorry. I don't need that mental picture. Anyway, that's all I got. Yeah, sorry about that.
Thanks for making it weird, Vic.
Yeah.
So on that thing, when we talk about delivery drones and things like that, now it's interesting because just across the way over in Springfield, they're Kroger's, doing 1 mile deliveries with the groceries.
Exactly.
So, things, and even the FAA is like, what's going on?
Yeah, we should reach out to them as well. I actually
not a bad idea
about maybe working for them. So I may actually I turned it down because they're not paying anything, but I may reach out to them and see if they might be interested.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea because maybe they've got plans.
Yeah, David, did you have that guy's info?
Well, he actually, the guy that was initially recruiting people actually quit and put out his public statement and whatever. But I've got the CTO's contact info.
Okay. Yeah, I got somebody when they were doing that in Centerville too for the test. They reached out to me too. I told them I wasn't interested, but I got that guy's number. I'll see if he's still around as well. So
that's a phenomenal idea.
I've got his info as well, so I can reach out to both of them.
Phenomenal
and
idea.
I can ask Fred or Dave from ODOT. Well, probably Dave from ODOT.
Sure.
Let me reach out to ODOT and see if they got, if they want to get into this.
So
if you have an AMA chapter there too, it'd be awesome to get them there.
Chad, are you with ODOT?
I was their first hired pilot, and then I basically got Daniel started right when my hours ran out, but basically the guys running it are politicians and really didn't know how to sell it. So I went around to all the districts with my, M210 going, man, have I got a mousetrap for you guys.
Yeah.
And they were at like maybe 60 flights a year, maybe. And when I left, they were at like maybe 300 or 400, projected to go to like 1,200 after I left. And I think they're at, for this year, they're somewhere north of 1,600, and they don't have any pilots. So if you know anybody,
James, David.
Well, because I used to work for ODOT, and I know Fred, so I'll reach out. I can reach out to him as well and see if he's got. I mean, I got all those guys down in District 8 because that's where I worked at that I know as well. So I don't know if there's somebody down there, maybe. Or maybe if I can get Tammy Campbell to say something as well with how that's going to screw them over.
Yeah, they get real crazy about that. So do you know Dave Gallagher?
Yeah, he's the head, right?
Yeah, I taught him how to fly drones.
I think I know Dave.
Yeah, he's awesome. He was out at he was down at ABUSI.
Oh, down in Atlanta.
But he goes all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, tell you what, you guys can also take this offline in an email. I'm sorry, nothing personal.
Yeah, no.
But no, the coordination. This is coordination. No, coordination is key and it's phenomenal. But this can, try and CC everybody without getting too carried away. Like if Nick and Chad want to try and get that part organized, y'all do it yourselves. If you have, hey, you know what, so and so is coming on Wednesday. CC everybody. Say, hey, you're going to be here. These are going to be here. They're going to be here. And get there about half hour, 45 minutes early and just kind of meet in the lobby or something. Because if you've got a group of people meeting in a lobby before a city council meeting, city council walks by, they're going to notice. Yeah. They're going to say, there's a group of people out there that are all together and talking. And when you all file in and start standing up for the drone stuff, that's going to go ding, ding, ding again. With them, okay, so let's a little bit of recognition there. We got a group of people that this is going to affect.
There's enough, Vic. There's enough just engineers, consultants that work for ODOT for roadway stuff there. Because when I was at ODOT, I mean, there were people all the time working in Hamilton that now will use that stuff. So, I know
and they're not exempt.
Nope. Yeah, and I know Hamilton's got something on track that they're trying to push through as well. So, I mean, that's something. I'll get in touch with Tammy tomorrow morning and see what she says. So
perfect. And we're going to go ahead. DSB will have an email out tomorrow. Excuse me. And so y'all are so organized. It's awesome. So appreciate this. It's great. It really is. It's nice to see this. You've got local people, you've got state people, you've got hobbyists, you've got Chad, and you've got all these people that are just, and Wendell, who hasn't said anything. So it's cool. It's cool, Wendell. That I think you're going to have a good showing, but emphasize the unnecessariness. Is that a word? Of the bill, of the ordinance, proposed ordinance, what it's going to do, and the exemption. If you're going to pass it, you've got to have these two exemptions: trust and 107. If you've got your trust, you've got your remote pilot certificate, you should be exempt from not the rules about spying on people.
Right.
So just the rules under 511.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the key.
The gist of it, just add in part 107 in the trust program, and
if you lose every other battle,
yeah, you guys go be crazy.
You've won the war. Yeah. If you win that battle, you've won the war. If you lose every other battle.
Yeah.
But the key is just say, you don't need this. It's dumb in a nice diplomatic way. What the definition of diplomacy is: telling somebody to go to hell in such a manner that they look forward to the trip. So that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do.
I'm going to remember that.
Hey, Vic, this is Wendell.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Wendell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for not being.
No. There's no reason.
I'm actually been editing while we've been doing this. I have a deadline that is due first thing in the morning.
Thanks.
But I've already got. I'm going to be flying. On Wednesday when the meeting. I would really love to attend the meeting, but we're doing a campaign commercial for someone that's running for public office in Cincinnati. So I'm going to be tied up all day. But anyway, I already have my thoughts together on the letter that I want to send, and it's good listening to everybody interject here, because I pretty much have had my thoughts aligned, and it sounds like from what you're saying that they're headed in the right direction. And from the input that I've gotten from you all, I'll be able to refine those a little bit further. But yeah, the only other thing that I had relative to this is an angle I was taking in. We do a lot of motion picture and television filming for like Amazon and Netflix and other people. Nice. And we've done a lot of motion picture and TV work in the Ohio and tri-state area. And the angle I was looking at is to tell them that, when we're doing scouts for doing a production in a town or a city like Hamilton, that brings in revenue, and it brings in national attention in a lot of cases to these communities. And if I have to tell the director or the producer that, hey, I know you want to do this film here in Hamilton, but they have a very drone unfriendly ordinance here, and maybe we should look elsewhere for this type of work. And if I can get their attention from that angle, maybe they'll take a different look at it.
That's a great angle. And actually, I can tell you for a fact that Denver has the same issue, and we have lost films and advertisements and stuff like that, and they went and filmed somewhere other than Denver because of these horrible drone laws in Denver through the film commission.
They've definitely made movies here. So
drones are ubiquitous to every form of marketing, episodic TV, feature films. It's just a given now that they're integral to that type of work. So it's no longer like an afterthought. They storyboard our drone shots and everything. And, like we just did a Netflix shoot earlier this week, and the whole crew was dedicated to getting these drone shots. They took a whole day to get these shots because they're critical to the story. So they need to understand things like that.
Thanks, Nick.
Wendell, that brings up another thing, right? So telecom, right? I've flown all over Hamilton. The corridor between Dayton and Cincinnati. It's like we were stuck there. I've had different pilots from different parts of the country there. Not everybody is going to know this ordinance right off the bat, nor do we check. So
because they're dumb.
Yeah, because they're the only ones that have it.
Right. So that's another good angle. So, and I want to go ahead and wrap this up. But keep this conversation. And Wendell, real quick question for you. On Wednesday, is the politician going to be with you?
Yes, yeah,
You
absolutely.
need to talk to him about drones.
That's a very good point. I hadn't really thought about that till you said that, but yeah, absolutely.
If I got a politician, if I'm talking to a politician, I talk to him about drones.
Good point.
Cool. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Chad, you had some great information here. Same thing, James, David, perfect. Wendell, fly safe Wednesday.
Thank you.
Don't hurt the politician because that'll just ruin everything.
No, that wouldn't go well.
No, it would not go well at all. I'm going to have this up. It's 3:15 here in Denver. I'll probably have this up in about 45 minutes on our YouTube page for DSPA. I'll send out a link, and then I'll also include the emails of who you need to send. Yes. Were you going to say something, Chad? I heard somebody say, guess not. Okay. Maybe we lost Chad. All right. Y'all take it easy. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, these guys wanted to get on the tower, but they didn't want to be in the picture. And I'm like, don't worry about it. And they're like, no, I'll wait.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, gentlemen. Have a great Sunday. And if y'all don't mind, let me know how it goes Wednesday. I don't know if it's live or not. I'm going to take a peek. But I've got an appointment Wednesday evening, so I don't know if I'll make it. Cool. But let me know how it goes.
All right.
Thanks, gentlemen. Have a good one.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vic.
All right,
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.